I'm Chris McDonough, a retired homicide detective. I've interviewed thousands of people, from serial killers to ministers. Welcome to the interview room. Aloha, everybody. My name is Chris McDonough, and welcome to the interview room tonight. We're grateful you're here. This is a very special evening to talk about a very special woman, Maya Millete. And if you're new to our channel, please consider subscribing, hit the button. But we're here tonight to talk about a mother of three who has been missing for 94 days. 94 days. Okay. And so with me tonight, I have Maya's sister and her brother-in-law, Mary Chris and Richard. Good evening, guys. How are you?
We're doing good, Chris.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here. We also have Billy Little, and next to me over to the left, Billy has been working with the family. And Billy, how are you doing this evening, buddy?
Doing great, Chris. Thank you for inviting me.
Yes, sir. It's great to have you here. And then to the left of Billy, those of you who don't know, is Greg Cooper, the executive director of the Cold Case Foundation. Greg, how are you doing this evening?
Good to be with you, Chris. Thanks for the invitation.
Yes,
An honor
absolutely.
to be here with you. You bet.
And then below is Dean Jackson, the assistant executive director of Cold Case Foundation. Dean, great to have you here this evening.
Thanks, Chris. It's a privilege to be with you guys tonight.
Guys and gals, if you're just joining us, thank you so much for the considerate donations. We feel blessed. Okay, so you guys know me. Let's get into this. And so first of all, let's just talk about Mary Chris. How are you guys doing? How's the investigation progressing from your side? And then let's go ahead and see where you're at that point. What do you think?
We're doing okay, Chris. We're hanging in there. The family, it's been a nightmare since day one, and as you said, it's been 94 days. We haven't heard anything. Investigation-wise, we did meet with the detective on last Thursday, and they didn't really give us any information at all or any new leads. They don't have anything. It feels like we're still on day one. But they did reassure us that they're working on my sister's case and that they're still working on those the results for those search warrants that they did 2 weeks after she went missing. That's all we know at this time. So that's where we at.
Okay. Richard, how are you doing, bud?
Good. Just, right behind the family, supported them, pushing my wife. She just, whatever she needs, I'm there. Whatever the family needs, I'm there. I just wish we had something to go by. It's been over 3 months, and when I asked him a simple question, we sat down with the CPD last week, and I was hoping for something more, but it was just the same old. We're not there yet. We don't have those results yet. We're still working on that. We're not here to discuss that. We're here to discuss the search efforts, but that was it. That's all they did.
Okay. Billy, you have been doing a heck of a lot of work on behalf of this wonderful family here. And I can just tell you, we're grateful that you have also come on as a member of the Cold Case Foundation, where we just think you're fantastic. I mean, your skill, your resume speaks for itself. I understand you may we've been talking about 2 months, Billy, behind the scenes,
Yep.
Approximately.
A couple months, yes, that's right.
Yeah. And so what do you got? What have you uncovered that where do you want to go this evening? And let's talk about some of the things that we're kicking loose here. Go ahead.
Well, for starters, the amount of information that comes in is just overwhelming. I'm probably putting in 16-hour days. And then the requests for interviews are just nonstop, which is a good thing. That means there's public interest and public support, and I'm happy for that. But sifting through all of the information and determining what is rumor versus what is actual information is a full-time job. We've got a lot of information that I'm a guy, I don't like putting things out there if I haven't confirmed it, right? So I want to be a truth teller. I want to be a person who searches for the truth and then shares it with people. And that's what I'm trying to do here. So I'm trying not to continue to spread the rumors that I've heard until I've confirmed them. But I have seen some additional footage from some surveillance videos. I've seen some pictures and matching some cars that were coming and going that night. And this part is rumor because I haven't confirmed it, but there is rumor that there is audio of a fight in that house that night. I have heard the gunshot audio, so I can confirm that. There's also rumor about the children being outside playing late at night on a school night when it's cold there by themselves. So there is some new information that's out there. I just haven't been able to confirm it. So I'm still working on that, but there's a mountain of information.
Right. And we know there was a search warrant yesterday morning at approximately 0600.
Correct.
And we believe that's at Kathy and Ricky's house, the brother-in-law.
That's correct.
No?
No, Richard is shaking his head.
It's Aunt and his Uncle Rick.
Aunt and his uncle. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And so, Billy, in your discovery here and your teamwork here, what led to that, do you believe, of why they would have kicked that door in? Because first of all, let's explain to our audience that may not understand, for the sake of the purity of this testimony, right? That they had those investigators had to go before a judge and get a affidavit of probable cause to search that residence. Okay? And I know, behind the scenes, you've gained enough information to probably have written that affidavit, quite frankly. But that said, what's some of the information that you feel comfortable sharing without jeopardizing Maya's case or the investigation currently?
I understand it. So I'm making an assumption that people are coming in with a basic understanding of the case, but I'll give a 30-second version in case they haven't. So
okay,
within 30 hours of Maya or May, if it's okay if I call her May, Mary Chris, Richard?
Yeah.
Okay.
May.
So within 30 hours of May going missing, there was a freezer taken out of the garage, which raised everybody's antennas and said, wait a minute. This is what you're thinking about when your wife, your spouse has gone missing? You thinking about getting rid of freezers? Not to mention the fact that it sounds very suspicious when there's a missing person and you're getting rid of freezers. So that's what started it. It's sort of the thread that you pull, or the layer of an onion. You start to pull on that, and then I went over and talked to Uncle Ricky, and I looked at the freezer. I've also now looked at other photos, past photos from the house to verify that that was the freezer. But then you start to wonder, well, was the freezer involved, or is that just because they needed a reason to be there, or both? And so there are other people who have seen, other witnesses who watched Ricky and Kathy assist in a cleanup of some sort using bleach. And when I was at Uncle Ricky's house, it was not a house that was spotless, that you could eat off the floor, where you would expect that they clean with bleach all the time. This was a not necessarily dirty, but cluttered house. So when they start cleaning with bleach and you add that to all of the other circumstantial evidence, then you realize, okay, there's something more going on here. And obviously the police believe that as well. There was, after the first search warrant, Ricky was heard in the backyard saying, "No, don't worry, everything's under control," as he's talking on the phone. And I'm not even sure where I was going, Chris. I'm sorry. But that's some of the background information on Ricky. There are also some reports that several rifles were taken from Uncle Ricky and Aunt Kathy's home. I've been in contact with them. Uncle Ricky tells me that he's represented by an attorney, but I don't have a name. I haven't been able to confirm that either. So it's clear that there was a lot going on that night that she went missing. That was the Thursday night, Friday morning, and then all the way into Saturday. It puts the locked upstairs door into context, which is that buys him time. If he can lock that door, it buys him time to do a cleanup. So
go ahead.
No, it's just very obvious that Ricky, Kathy, and Larry were working in concert with whatever happened. They were working together. There were cars seen coming and going that night. Some of the video is not that clear, but even from the blurry videos, the pictures are consistent with the same vehicle driven by Ricky and Kathy. So,
okay.
Pretty sure that, I don't know what percentage to put on it. It's just the vehicle's consistent with the car that comes in and out of Larry Street in his house that night.
And what time in the morning was that? Do we know?
I believe it was about 2:30ish in the morning. If I remember, I don't have my notes in front of me, but I believe that's right. And Mary, Chris, and Richard, if I say something that's incorrect, please correct me, or if you want to add something.
No, everything, with if you're talking about the car, like the 2:30 in the morning, that was seen, that which is unusual according to the neighbors. When we did that interview with the neighbors on that Sunday when my sister went missing, the neighbors did look at all the their footage or their videos, and they did showed a car that was parked in front of Larry's house, which is, they said it was unusual. And then they did look at it, and it looks like it's a white car, they said, and but they can't really know if it's a sedan or maybe an SUV. So it was kind of a little bit blurry, but yeah, that was about 2:30 in the morning.
And that same vehicle, if I can just add some clarity to that same vehicle on the street that runs perpendicular to May and Larry's home, it was seen racing down that street and then making the right turn onto their street and then pulling in front of the house.
Okay. Coop, any thoughts that come to you while on this level set here that we're talking about?
Yeah, I just want to acknowledge the frustration, Mary, Chris, and Rick and the family with respect to what the police are able to share with them. On one hand, I'm having been in that position before, I know that law enforcement wants to support and provide you hope and some confidence that things are being done, the investigation is continuing, that the evidence is being gathered, and I suspect that that's exactly what they are doing. The difficulty for them is it's a fine line. While they want to encourage and provide that hope and confidence for you, the difficulty is by providing it, whatever they expose or disclose to the public is also accessible to persons of interest and any suspects that they have and who they've targeted, which for them puts them at a disadvantage and an advantage for those whom they're looking at. So while I know it's frustrating and the pain and emotional trauma that your family has experienced is unbearable at times, that I want to encourage you that I'm confident that law enforcement is doing everything that they can do, and keep in mind also that whatever they're gathering, that they know that it has to satisfy the requirements for search warrants, for example, affidavits for search warrants, affidavits for arrest warrants, and ultimately that the district attorney is looking at that information that's being gathered, and they make a decision, that district attorney has to make a decision as to whether or not there's sufficient evidence to present that to a judge and or jury for trial. So they have to maintain an expectation and a level of competence with respect to that evidence that will be acceptable in a court of law. And it's very difficult to try to, I think, play both sides of the tightrope, if you will, to help and support the family, and then also to maintain the integrity of the case while they're trying to also present and prepare a case that will be acceptable to the courts.
Chris, can I ask a question of Coop?
Of course. Go, Billy.
Thank you. Coop, so one of the fears that I believe the family has is that if no body is found, the police won't prosecute. Have you ever been involved in a case where there was no body found, there was a prosecution and a conviction?
Yeah, absolutely. There are several cases, numerous cases out there throughout the United States where successful prosecution and conviction has been achieved, even though the victim has never been found. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah, and if I can dovetail into that as well, absolutely. I mean, if you know through your experiences in the courts, Billy, that in this type of situation, if you do not find the victim, it doesn't mean the victim did not exist, right, in a court of law. So if you think about the principle of a swimming pool, and if you look in the backyard and you see these wet footprints going into the house, okay, yet you don't see the person who made those footprints, there's reason to believe that, that's a circumstance. So it becomes a circumstantial type of case. So the type of evidence that they try to, assemble for that type of conviction in the court, at least in San Diego County, would be the type of evidence that showed there is no way that somebody was in the backyard with a Bigfoot stick with a foot at the bottom of it, going like this from the pool to the house, and which is a perfect segue into the type of evidence that I think the family has been on their own uncovering, as well as that you have uncovered, Billy. And I'll just ask Dillan to tee up the latest tape that, by the way, you've had this for quite some time. Let's we'll let the public know that some of the information that you have been working on, and that you and I have talked in the past, the last 2.5 months, purposely has been held back for investigative credibility. Unfortunately, there's a whole new world in the media and the internet today, where other people have thrown things up out into the public, and so it becomes public knowledge. Okay, but Dillan, let's go ahead and play that latest tape from that night potentially.
Hey, Chris.
Yeah, cool.
Could I just add one more thing before we?
Of course.
Just for the audience purposes, and also maybe this will especially help understand a little bit for Mary, Chris, and Richard and their family. Anytime there's a successful conviction in a court of law, there's typically about 4 different types of evidence that's utilized. Number one is physical evidence or forensics. Another form of evidence is circumstantial evidence. Another form is witness statements. And then finally is confession. Now, we add another form of evidence from a behavioral perspective, or rather, I should say, a profiling perspective, and an investigative perspective for investigative purposes, and that is behavioral evidence. And generally, it's been my experience that there has to be at least 2 forms of evidence to support the theory that's being presented in a court of law, to prove what that theory was that's being presented by the prosecution. At least 2 forms of evidence to corroborate each other, if you will. And so what's happening is while this investigation is going on, the police are seeking out evidence in each of those categories and compiling it and trying to make a nexus between those different forms of evidence that ultimately will be presented in court to present and prove a theory that they're going to hypothesize. So keeping that in mind, as far as the public is concerned as well, any of those forms of evidence that you think would be helpful to the police in this capacity and in their investigation, please don't hesitate to contact the police and advise what you know in those areas of evidence so they can strengthen their case.
Can I add one follow on to that, Coop?
Yep.
Sure.
So
go ahead.
For 1.5 years, Larry tracked May's every movement. He knew when she was eating lunch. He had her credit card. In real time, he was tracking it. She would be at lunch. If the bill was too much, he would say, this bill is for 4 people, not 3. Who is the 4th person? He put tracking devices in her car. He knew her every moment and everywhere she was. And then the moment she goes missing, he has no clue where she is and seems unconcerned. So we talk about behavioral things that get away. Maybe that fits into what you're saying, Coop.
It does, absolutely. And so in a sense, he's stalking her, trying to monitor her every moment to the extent that he possibly can. And there's a motivation behind that, and trying to determine what that motivation is. And so you're looking for patterns of behavior that existed before, but all of a sudden, for example, upon her disappearance, everything changes. Everything changes, including attitudes, ways in which she's referred to, even the verbiage that's being used in reference to her and the children, but especially with respect to her, to know that she's being stalked, basically, is very significant with respect to what's going on in that relationship and with respect to what his mindset is about her and what she's doing. and how he's trying to control every part of that relationship. So they're very significant.
And Dr. Phil, on Dr. Phil's show, I know we're not promoting Dr. Phil's show, but on Dr. Phil's show tomorrow, he will break down that statement, exactly what you just said, Coop. She, her, it, rather than my wife, Maya. It's exactly what you just said. Right, Richard, Mary Chris?
Yes.
That's correct. Yep.
Well, and I think too, one of the things that we want to look at is not just Larry's behaviors, but also, other individuals. So what is you're looking at the behaviors of Ricky and Kathy as well. And you're always looking at pre and post behavior. So both sides we're going to look at to see where that's, where that leads us as well. So.
Yeah.
Great call.
So let's take a deep breath. You know me, Richard and Mary Chris, you know how I am. I want to make sure you guys are doing okay, because, this is some hard stuff and we can only imagine what you're feeling. We just want to be sensitive and considerate to that. So are you guys got a deep breath here? You doing good?
Yeah, we're
good.
ready. Yeah.
Yeah, coconut water. We're good.
Okay. Coconut water. Yeah, exactly. So, okay, Dillan, let's go ahead and play the tape of, the neighbor. Okay, Jill.
Cut it.
Go ahead, Billy. What were we going to say?
No, I just wanted to cut that because there were some
Yeah.
comments at the end that were
Yeah.
unrelated to that. Okay,
That's why we stopped it. Yep.
thank you.
So, yeah, tee that up, Billy. Tell us what we're listening to.
Those are loud bangs. For me, it's consistent with gunshot audio that I've heard in the past. It sounds like a large caliber revolver, maybe a 357, and sounds like about 6 shots, which would also be consistent with a revolver. And I think I'm now stepping out of my lane into your guys' lane, right? So,
Yeah, I think we have to do some correlation here. The first correlation is the first search warrant where guns were taken out of a residence. You need probable cause to take guns out of a house. Okay. That's probable cause that we just listened to. Now, whether that's the probable cause that they utilized, I would tell you from an investigator perspective, and Coop and Dean, you guys can weigh in here, but to me, that sounded like gunfire. And if it's coming within, a geographic region of where a person went missing, my understanding there may have even been some 911 calls that came in to check the area, that the officers may have responded to that area. Do we have, validity into that information that was presented? Do we know if the cops went out there?
So
Yeah.
Are you asking
Okay.
us?
is it just open to the group, Chris?
Yeah, just open to the group. I'm sorry. My bad.
So I haven't confirmed that, but I know that there's a FOIA request for what that's worth during an investigation from some reporters. So there's requests to get those 911 calls. There's a request to confirm whether there were calls for service. There's a request to obtain the calls for service at that house, at Larry and May's house, and in the neighborhood. So that we're trying to confirm that information, but that certainly is the rumor out there that there were 3 911 calls made that night. And
Okay.
Do we know what time? Do we know what time this, what we just heard was recorded?
I think, but I can't confirm. So I'm speculating. I'm based again on what rumor I was told. It's around 10 o'clock, I think, at night. And the kids, I think, were seen outside playing in the backyard around 10:30ish.
Okay, but that hasn't been verified then. Yeah, right,
Correct.
Billy? That's
Correct.
okay,
Absolutely
so
right.
right. So we're gonna work right how we operate. Joe, Coop, what were your thoughts when you heard that?
Well, it certainly sounded like gunshots, and I've heard some other representations of that from the media that were even more clear than that one is, and it even is sounds more clear as gunshot sounds. The question I have too is, has that been verified as to the origin, Billy, of where those alleged shots came from? Was it? Do we know exactly what house it was, or could it be? It could have been that house, or it could have been another house close to it.
No, I have verified the house through the people that live there.
Okay. Well, that's obviously very significant. The timing is significant. The fact that she's never seen again since that timing is also significant. So, that's again some of that behavioral evidence that we're talking about.
Well,
and as that compiles, go ahead.
Again, Coop, back to the behavioral portion. When she goes missing, Larry starts looking for gun cleaning equipment immediately. The day she goes missing, he starts looking for gun cleaning equipment. And that was part of the interview that I did with him. And then he also said, when I said, hey, the police can get gunshot residue off your hands. And he said, well, I have been shooting the last few days. So now we're
saying that, there you go. It's all consistent with what we're talking about. And now he's explaining away why, if residue is found, why it was there. And so he offers an explanation.
Mm-hmm.
So to follow the kind of timeline, so we're saying this is around 10 o'clock at night that these shots are heard. And then if we go on to, is it about 2:30 in the morning where the vehicle is seen coming in, correct?
Correct.
So don't you think, Greg, that kind of behaviorally, if, once you realize you've kind of got a real situation on your hands, if you've done something now, you need to get help, that fits within a timeline of, getting somebody to come over and, help you take care of whatever mess you've got going there. I would think that, nothing, I guess the point is that nothing we're seeing, would take away from the narrative that's beginning to evolve, at least behaviorally. There's not something that you go, but how do we explain this? Everything seems to be kind of falling in line, going in a particular direction. Now, if something go ahead.
Only that when we start looking at behavior, we want to start looking at behavior within the last year, even.
Yeah.
In terms of what's been going on in that relationship. And we don't look at any one thing specifically unless you have a smoking gun, so to speak, and a witness. But what we're looking at is a totality of events and circumstances and specific activities that add up to only reasonable conclusions. And that's what probable cause is based upon, reasonableness.
Yeah, and I just want to point one other thing out. Remember in his statement that he made the comment to the family about, well, let's wait till about 4 a.m. to see if she comes home.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, I find that an interesting correlating statement. Coop, what are your thoughts on dovetailing into that thought process?
It sounds like the probability that it fits into a narrative that's being created, something that either had to be done by that specific point in time, within the plan, possibly that's being surmised and carried out. And after that specific time, there's less concern. He's got an explanation, and then there's less concern after that point in time. That may be incriminating.
Yeah, it's an interesting play here because it sounds like, he's almost rehearsed this thought process. And Coop, explain to the audience, and Dean, jump in, and Billy, and of course Mary Chris and Richard, if you have any thoughts, please dovetail into what we're going here. But it's almost as if he's got this lead up, right, with the stalking, with the control issues, all those narcissistic personality traits, as well as over exhaustive controls. He's paranoid in relationship to, is she having an affair, and all these other things, and he's just kind of pushing her to create all of a sudden now this narrative of excuse. And post potential incident, he's had this narrative already worked out up here, and that night he kind of leaks it, right, Coop? I mean, even like some spree killers and stuff, they do leakage, right, where they kind of say some things post incident or pre incident about something going down. I get the sense that Larry's pretty cunning in this particular process, if he's the guy who's pulling that trigger, hypothetically.
Yeah. As you take a look at all the different aspects behaviorally over that last year, and you start to piece together that puzzle, you find very significant behaviors, circumstances, and comments that may have been made, activities, the disintegration of a relationship, the consideration of the domestic dissolution, ultimately to a divorce, or the consideration of a divorce. Is it significant that she was attempting to make an appointment with a divorce attorney within 24 hours, for example, of her disappearance, or 2 days, or even if it was a week, or even that month? Yeah, what we're looking at is what we refer to as, you've got the precipitating stressors, and then you look at triggering events. What brought on that particular event that night? You've got all the stressors there with respect to the relationship and the disintegration of the relationship. And then what happens that triggers the event of her disappearance and the interaction that caused her disappearance? In my estimation, from what we've understood, is that the closest thing that we can identify is that she makes an appointment with an attorney. And I think that's a significant, what we'd refer to as a triggering event. It would fall into the definition of a triggering event.
And I'm sorry,
No, I'm done. Go ahead.
No, in Larry's own words, there was a big fight on that night.
Well, that's significant. Now that's an explanation then. That's a further explanation. Exactly. Yeah.
And he tries to lessen it, though. When he says it,
it's not the whole truth. It's not the whole, all the detail of that fight.
Right. And Greg, remember when we were going through his statement, his statement was he got into kind of an argument. So he was beginning to try to lessen, minimize that, the significance of that argument for that, and then moves quickly in his statement process into, beginning to blame and shame Maya with, focusing on, her supposed quote drinking and being out late. And so you have, these behavioral things that are beginning to take place now post the incident as well, that become factors that we're looking at.
And let's, if you're new with us tonight, we did a video a couple of months ago, just after Maya went missing, where we brought in Coop, Dean, Steve Johnson, who is a forensic statement analyst. He trains law enforcement all around the world. And the guy's amazing. And between the panel, we broke down Larry's statement. So if you've not heard it, go back, take a look at that. I think you'll find some interesting things, because I'm seeing a lot of very consistent, conscientious thought process here, where he has thought this out to the point where right now he's, I remember one thing about that statement. He didn't use her name one time.
Nope.
In that, if I remember right. Is that right, guys? If I remember right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, so let's talk about Ricky. Billy, what can you tell us about Ricky?
Interesting sort. So he also had marital problems with his wife, Kathy, over the past few years. And he and Larry sort of bonded with that, and they shared their discussions of the marital problems. They also shared some strong Christian discussions with each other. In fact, Ricky, when I was at his house, started talking about Christianity and how he was praying and all of this, followed by the fact that he reached out and contacted me a month later and asked me if there were any updates on the case. So I'm not sure what triggered that in him. Perhaps it was working with Larry to see if he could gather some information about what was going on in the investigation. And when I said, Ricky, I'm afraid that the worst has happened and that she won't be coming home, he parroted the things that Larry has been saying, which is, well, let's pray and hope. And it was almost as if Larry had written that text message or was sitting there with him when that text message was written. So those two appear to be very close, those two. I know that Larry didn't seem to trust people very much and didn't have a strong, close group of people other than his family. So that's somebody that he could relate to, this Uncle Ricky. It's somebody that I believe he trusted and brought in to this horrible event.
And I know, Mary Chris and Richard, you guys have reached out on every occasion that I can, find, to not only Larry, but to the rest of the family to say, hey, come help. We need your help. How are you guys dealing with, that progress, and if any?
Heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking that after 21 years, they just ignored me as if she never existed.
Right.
And that's the hard part, that she was a mother. She gave birth to 3 awesome kids. And it's like she's never was part of the family. They don't reach out to us. They don't call us. They ignore our calls and text messages. And how do you ignore somebody that's been part of your family for 21 years, overnight, over a weekend?
We've been trying to reach out to them, but not a single one, any of them. Like the brother, Larry's brother, his wife, Tita Kari and Rick never really reach out to us at all. And even his dad, Papa Leo, they just they're so unconcerning. There's no empathy from them coming from them at all, which is so heartbreaking because Maya's been part of their family for 21 years, and yet we don't even get any help from them. And I know Larry also has a family member that works with DOJ, and I did reach out to Larry and say, hey, you have a family member, maybe they could help us out. But nothing at all. Nothing. Nobody reached out to us.
How was her relationship with the in-laws before she went missing?
Um, it's been okay. I mean, like they don't really have that good, really close relationship. But her in-laws, Larry's mom and dad, they live with them, and they do take care of the kids. So they don't get along that really well. They're really good. But then as I said, they live with them.
So were they living with them at the time of Maya's disappearance?
No, that was a unfortunate one too, because last year, December 22, Larry's mom and dad moved out to Texas. So so they were not home at the time, and they already moved out. And it was just unfortunate. It's before Christmas. They planned to move out before Christmas, and to me that was kind of unusual. I mean, it's my family. I mean, I would like to spend Christmas with them, at least for not the last time, but they're moving out to Texas. They're moving away, so I would spend probably Christmas with my grandkids, before moving out, for good, away from them. But that's their
So,
mindset. I mean, that's their family type of family, they have.
And,
But
Billy, you had. Go ahead, Coop. Go ahead. Finish
So I was
up.
just going to ask, what was the nature of their relationship being between Maya and her in-laws?
Mm-hmm.
Now they lived with him for quite a while, and sometimes that can grate on people too after a period of time, right? It's kind of infringement at some point on privacy and those issues.
Mm-hmm.
And we also know about allegations that Larry was making about Maya. Certainly he would have, and he's approached your family on some of those allegations, but most likely he also approached his family on allegations, and to whatever degree that could have contributed to the dismantling of the relationship and rapport between Maya and his family.
Mm-hmm. It's a great point. Mary Chris and Richard, did you guys get that question?
Not really.
no, I think that's more of a comment.
Let me try and sum it up, and I'm probably going to not do a good job. These allegations that Larry makes, right, against May and her alleged infidelity, if he made them to her and everybody, the entire world, did he make them to his family? And did that cause animosity? Did that cause problems with the family? Were their in-laws, did the in-laws dislike May at all?
Since the beginning, when it's been years, his side of family doesn't really like May. They've been, again, Larry's mom and my sister doesn't really get along that good. So, with the allegations, it's probably have, put more, misunderstanding and, not that good of a relationship with them. So again, as I said, they didn't really get along with my sister.
So, go ahead.
I was just going to ask, what was the nature of the relationship between Ricky and Larry and Kathy prior to all of this? Has it always been, have they been very close, or have you noticed a change? Or
I can't really, say much of that, because, we only see Kathy and Rick on certain occasions when they do have birthday parties with the kids that is held,
That's good.
at their house. So I don't really, I can't really tell their relationships together. But with just to put the with the Cutty and Rick, Larry is actually related to Kathy instead of of Rick. So just to put that relationship. But for I wouldn't be able to tell the difference, before and after, the relationship.
How far away did they live from Larry and May?
Not that far, maybe about 10-15 minutes.
Okay.
I believe, yeah.
So can I say something about motive here? I'm watching some of the chat over here, and I see some folks talking about maybe your sister was, unfaithful. Okay, let's make this clear from an investigator who's investigated many homicides. Okay, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's make it clear. Okay, you don't get to kill somebody because you think that you should control whether or not they choose to live their life the way they live. If that was the case, then no dope dealer case would ever get solved. No poor girl who's working at 3 o'clock in the morning who may have had an incredibly destructive life that put her on the street who gets murdered would be solved. And the list goes on. So I'm watching one guy over here. I'm not going to name who it is because, quite frankly, I don't know who it is. It could be Larry. Okay. But let me make this clear to you. Okay. On this channel, you don't get to just say what you want to say. Okay. We're talking about the life of a mother who is missing with 3 children at home. And quite frankly, she's the victim. And if her victimology put her at some place or another place, it doesn't give another person the opportunity to take their life. Folks, that's what a civil society is about. So, whoever you are, I appreciate you being here. And supporting this family, and it's okay to have that opinion, but infidelity is not a license to take somebody's life if that happens to be the truth, whether it is or it isn't. That's not a death sentence. Okay, so let's just leave that right there. Out of respect for your family, Mary Chris and Richard, I apologize that those kind of things, came up in the chat, but that's okay. People are allowed to say that simultaneously, but it doesn't matter. What matters is your sister's missing, and we're here to discuss how all of us can help find her. Billy, go ahead.
It is the mindset of a serial killer that thinks if someone is immoral, that gives me the right to kill them. That's the Jack the Ripper mentality. If you don't agree with the morality, I can kill everybody. That's a serial killer.
Coop, tell us about that mindset.
Those are excuses and rationalizations. They rationally lie to themselves to justify it to society. They know. They're intelligent enough. They recognize. And that's why some of these serial offenders will go after say prostitutes, for example, because in their own mind, they're attempting to, number one, they're looking at victimology also. They're profiling who's the type of individual that's going to draw the least attention to myself as an offender. They're looking for a high-risk victim that puts themselves in a high-risk situation. And so that's why so many of the serial offenders that we've studied over the years have selected very high-risk living people and victims because they're easy prey. It has nothing to do with their moral justification. All it has to do with is power, domination, and control over killing or taking the life of another human being. And when it comes down to it, May was a very low-risk victim. And from my perspective, that bottom line motivation is still all about power, domination, and control. Anything outside of that are rational excuses and justifications, trying to garner support out there for themselves as to why, you know, they had a moment where they lost their humanity. They never lost their humanity. They planned this thing out, and they fantasize. Nobody just wakes up in the morning and decides, I think I'm going to go kill somebody. It just doesn't happen that way. This is something that typically, now you're going to find that some people will act under certain circumstances, will act out. Typically that's in a defense mechanism. But generally, when an offender selects and targets an individual, and we know from May that she's a very low risk lifestyle. She was low risk even at the time the offense occurred, because most likely it appears that she was at least associated directly with the home, the family. The only thing that elevated her risk level was the relationship that she was in. That increased her risk level because of what was going on in that relationship. And that's what influences the ultimate outcome. But in the mind of the offender, they don't need a justification. They've got their reasons. And whether it's acceptable or not to society, it doesn't really matter to them. They may use that and manipulate that to attract some kinds of understanding or empathy. But it's not because they truly seek empathy. They're trying to dupe and manipulate society and the courts and the judges and the attorneys to utilize their backgrounds and whatever happened to them in their youth that victimized them, and now to use that as a justification for what they can do to other people. It's all excuse, in my opinion.
Greg, wouldn't you also say that extends to people who would maybe participate in helping to cover up or justify it as well? Because I think there's that same pattern that develops a lot of times with people who, for various reasons, well, they did something so they don't deserve to be punished till the ultimate degree. So they'll come alongside and sometimes make excuses or help cover things up. So I think you've got that potential as well, because sanctity of life should be a trump no matter what. It doesn't matter whether we're talking about the person who's perpetrating the crime or whether we're talking about people who maybe come along afterwards to help support, clean up, cover up, or whatever. There is no behavior that justifies that act or backing up somebody who has participated at that level either. So, I mean, I think we're looking at this from twofold. One, there seems to be looking at who perpetrated the crime, but from what we're hearing, there were others that were introduced into this scene to help clean it up as well, or to help, make things look better. So I think it extends to them as well, that there's no rationalization or justification to participate either. Just a thought.
Yeah, and I think somebody under this set of circumstances needs an ally. And while the probabilities are that that ally was not involved in any pre-planning, it may most likely have been incidental, and who knows what information has been being fed to that potential ally in anticipation and preparation for what ultimately could happen. For example, most likely that particular night was not selected and pre-planned. It happened as a result of whatever happened within that interpersonal dynamic that evening, presuming that that's where the culpability lies. But in anticipation of that, the individual who's anticipating and planning to some degree needs an ally. They recognize they need an ally, and they're developing allies. Mm-hmm. For example, over this last year, they're going to people to try to find out who will support them, at least in the narrative that they're utilizing. And Mary Chris, your family had been approached making allegations against May. That the only point for that, it certainly isn't to garner other than personal empathy for oneself who's giving the information out there and castigating the relationship, or rather the character assassination for May. It doesn't do her any good, but it does who does good by it? Well, the individual that's spreading the information. And he's out there looking for allies. Ideally, he wants to cement and keep that relationship together, and ultimately recognizing that it's not going to work. It becomes desperate.
You described the year leading up to her going missing exactly. He went out to family members, including May's family members, and tried to garner allies, tried to smear her reputation, and to control and manipulate her and to keep her where he wanted her. And he also did that with Uncle Ricky to get an ally. Exactly what you said. Now, my question going forward is, it appears that that behavior is repeating itself with the children. Do you see that being a risk factor, that he's tightening the control on the children, cutting off their access to other people, to neighbors, to other family members? Could you talk to that at all, Coop?
Yeah, I agree. To the level that he has control over those children, he's also attempting to reassure that relationship, reassure allies there within the relationship of parent-child, and recognizing that most likely there's information that's available by other witnesses about that relationship, and anybody close within that close circle has witnessed, whether both seen and heard things that draws questions, it creates questions, if not suspicion, about things. And so this is an effort to try to maintain control. The inability or lack of cooperation, I should say, with police any further, or with May's family, and to circle the wagons around his family nucleus, is all an attempt to maintain control and protection and safety.
So, what, Coop, let's reassure the family here. What, explain a little bit about the Cold Case Foundation and our resources if this thing kind of gets to a place where, you know, if they need some additional influence in terms of help from their approach to us. I mean, they came to us, you know, we told them that we would, you know, be behind the scenes and help out. And of course, Billy is just an amazing human being who's, you know, that has done a tremendous amount of work. And by the way, for the audience watching us tonight, you know, this case is going to take a life of itself. And, you know, if Larry's responsible, then Larry's responsible. That's all there is to it. If he's not, then he's not. That's the other side of it. Okay. But what we're asking for and what the family's been asking for, and I think what the community has been asking for, is help. Your wife is missing. You know, go to your sister-in-law, go to your brother-in-law, sit down and start looking for your wife. Bring the kids and everybody work together. It's that simple. It's pretty simple. And then simultaneously, Uncle Ricky, if you're listening, you have a platform here. We'd love to talk to you. Come on over. You know, we can set up a chat for you, and you know, we'd like to talk to you. But that invitation extends to you as well. Please go to Mary Chris and Richard and her Maya's side of the family, and everybody worked together to find Maya. I saw on the news the other night, some news reporter was talking to one of the family members, and there was this division of, you guys are doing one thing and they're doing another thing. Okay. Well, guys, as an investigator, that's a huge red flag. And I'm sure the community recognizes that. Okay. What side of the flag what side of the barrier that flag gets waved, sometimes it's over here and sometimes it's over here. Okay. It can go both ways. But what the victim needs is that flag to be in the middle. And both sides of the coin have to come together to help her. Now, here's the other sad part of this. If the husband is responsible, his family's a victim too, at some point. And those children will be victims of losing their mother, if that's the case. There's a lot of people that potentially could be hurt here. So I would just ask, Larry, if you're listening tonight, please reach out to your family, and you reach out to your wife's family and come together to help find your wife. Okay? And you can come onto this show here on this program. I'd love to talk to you. I extended this to a couple of other people in other states, and I extend the same invitation to you. But here's what we're going to do at the request of the family. They've asked us to kind of stay into the background and weigh in as needed. Okay. And Coop, you're the executive director of the Cold Case Foundation. What exactly does that mean from our perspective?
Well, the foundation has access to just about every level of expertise that's known to man when it comes to investigations. And if we don't have it now, then we would go out and get it based upon the nature of the case and what would be needed for that. And we're growing all the time. We have more resources that we add. When I say resources, I'm talking about human resources. People who have expertise in numerous disciplines, from forensics to forensic psychology to law, legalities to investigators, homicide investigators, arson investigators, sexual assault investigators, anything that you can imagine that could address issues within a case, we either have or will go out and find. And we don't charge law enforcement. This is available openly to law enforcement as well as victims' families to help resolve unsolved homicides, missing persons, unidentified remains, or sexual assaults where it appears to be of a serial nature. So, and to the degree that we have financial resources, we also will provide financial resources to those efforts in resolving these cases. So when it comes to this case, as has been seen, Billy has joined forces with us, and he is one of our experts in the area both of investigations and a legal resource for us. Billy was actually involved in this case before he joined with us, and we provide all of our support to him, to the family, and to law enforcement to help ensure that this thing gets done and done right. Again, it's at no cost. We're a nonprofit foundation, so it's at no cost to either victims' families or law enforcement. So whatever is needed, we'll do what we can to bring to bear whatever resources will help resolve it.
So I want you to know that this community, and quite frankly, the world, loves your family and loves your sister, Mary Chris.
Thank you.
Okay. And And, you know, there's going to be a lot more information coming. And what I meant by the other victim idea, I meant it like this. If, God forbid, you know, this goes, you know, down the road, well, he's got a mother and a father too. Okay. And, you know, the hardest part of understanding the system is you have families on both sides, but only one person gets to sit at that table, and that's who committed the crime. but there are other people. What I meant by that victimization concept, there are cousins, there are nephews, aunts, uncles, other family members on your side, Mary Chris, on my right, on the cousins to Maya's children on his side. Okay, that's what I meant by that statement. This is the worst case scenario of any family could ever go through. And, you know, God bless you for being such a strong advocate for your sister. Okay, we applaud you. And I and like everybody else on this panel and everybody else watching and in the chat here and around the world, we are here for your sister, and we're here to help support you and your husband, who have been on the ground for day one, minute one. Okay? And there are thousands of people I know in San Diego. San Diego is just an amazing, amazing community. Not only the city of Chula Vista, but just every city in San Diego. There are thousands of people that are rooting for your family and wanting, you know, justice for your sister and for her to be found. Okay? Whatever I can do, please do. Never, and I know you don't, but if you guys need to throw rocks at 3 o'clock in the morning, I'm telling you, you guys just call me, you know, and we'll throw rocks at 3 o'clock in the morning. Okay. I mean, Billy has, for goodness sakes, you've turned him on me at 3 o'clock in the morning. And, you know, we just want you to know that the world is listening to you. And I know there's some other big, you know, there's some pretty heavy duty players weighing in, and I think somebody's weighing in tomorrow, right? You want to tell us a little bit about what's happening tomorrow on your sister's case for the media?
You got her in tears right now.
You know, we are very, very grateful, you know, for all the help that's coming our way. And so with Bill's help, you know, we are gonna be we did pre-record for Dr. Phil tomorrow, so his show is coming up tomorrow. I think 3 o'clock, you know, San Diego time, but I don't know. It's tomorrow, 3 p.m. for Dr. Phil, and they're featuring my sister's, you know, stories. So that was a big deal. That's a blessing for us, and hopefully, you know, with that, you know, maybe we could put more pressure and, you know, get closer to finding my sister.
You keep pressing, right? You keep climbing that mountain. Okay. There's a saying that says no man got to the top of the mountain by falling there. Okay. You have to keep climbing that mountain, and as hard as it is, and those moments, okay, you guys have each other, okay, and you lean on each other, and you support one another, which you do just amazingly, and the public has seen it, okay. I've seen it as a friend, okay, but you inside that strength, okay, that strength is for your sister, for your mom, for your dad, for your family, okay? And you keep pressing forward. Don't stop, Okay, no matter what, no matter when somebody says, "Hey, we don't," if they did, which I don't think they're going to be honest with you, you know, but at some point, if that ever got to that place, well, you've got guys like this over here somewhere, like this, okay, and on the other side of him and down below, okay, we're trust me, we can help, you know, get some things motivated. And right now, I think, you know, it's headed in the right direction. And so God bless your family. Keep going. Let's, you know, thought process as we go forward. And what I'm going to do is go around, and Dean, I'm going to let you say a couple of things, then Coop, Billy, and then we'll close it out with Mary, Chris, and Richard having the last word. If that's okay with you guys. Does that sound okay?
Yep.
Okay, Dean?
Well, I just the thought is echo everything that Chris has said, and want you to realize that as an organization, we get involved in cases a lot of times after they've been, you know, 20, 30, 40 years, and families have continued to just carry that burden. And as an organization, we don't put a timeline on when we, you know, get involved. It's either by invitation of the family or by invitation of law enforcement, and those are kind of our two criteria. And we're just honored to be able to participate with you guys and bring our resources to bear, and look forward to anything that we can do. I can tell you, as an organization, we don't believe that it's any one person. It's a group of people working together. If this thing gets solved, it's going to be in concert with a ton of wonderful people who have been working on this since day one. And for us to even bring a little bit of a piece of support to that on any level is always a privilege. And know that you are in our thoughts and prayers, and we'll continue to support you in any way we possibly can.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Dean.
Coop?
You know, we have thousands and thousands of unsolved homicides in our country. On every year, just on the average, about 5,500 unsolved homicides add up each and every year. And there's a lot of reasons why they go unsolved, why they become what's referred to now as cold. But we have confidence, and that's why we organized the Cold Case Foundation. We have confidence that that can change, and we can make a contribution to turning that around. And we have to ensure, though, that the case never goes cold. And what do I mean by that? That the case must always be worked. And as long as it's being worked, it's not cold. As long as somebody cares and is providing and supporting and assisting, then there's no reason for it to go cold. And so now, by extension, we are part of your family. Law enforcement is part of your family as well, who's working this case. And they too, believe it or not, become victims in an unsolved crime, because more than anything else, they want to solve these crimes. And they are as committed, those assigned to May's case are as committed to solving it as all of us are. Trust me. And it haunts them. It haunts them and will haunt them for the rest of their lives if it isn't solved under their tutelage and assignment when they have it. I can't tell you the amount of detectives that we have talked with over the years that work with us now that have, you know, that one case or a handful of cases that bother them day in and day out. And because they were not able to solve that case during their career. And they're driven to help families just like you who work with us now to provide whatever resource that they can at no cost, only to help find some resolution and help bring about some justice for the, in your case, May. And we want you to know that we're part of your family. And so is law enforcement. They really are. And we're collectively, together, all of us, will remain committed until this is resolved.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Billy?
Yeah, like has already been said, this is a team effort, and I'm one person among thousands. But this team member will not quit until justice is served. I'm here to see it until it's done. And I know there's a lot of people just like that.
Yeah, somebody just put a comment up. Is there a GoFundMe for your sister? I don't know if there is or not. Is there a place that somebody can help donate if they want to support?
Yes, we actually have a GoFundMe page, and you could look it up through the social media Facebook page. It's Find
Okay.
Maya
Okay.
Millete.
Okay, can you after we're done, send me that link and we'll put it in the description below this video, okay? So people can go over to that GoFundMe page. Yeah, don't send us any money. Everything obviously goes, direct to you guys. That's the route to go. Okay, so go ahead. What I interrupted, but I saw that. I thought it was important. Forgive me. I'm sorry. You should see me drive. My wife says you're a terrible driver. Yeah. Okay. Mary, Chris, Richard, what are your thoughts?
Oh,
Well, first and most important is, man, from the bottom of our hearts, from the Tabalanza family, just want to send our deepest and sincere gratitude to you guys, to the Cold Case Foundation. Billy, thank you so much for all your help and hard work and dedication that you have put towards this case and finding our sister. To the community of Chula Vista for all the support around the world, I just want to say thank you. We could never repay all the help that we have gotten and received, and love and prayers. It's overwhelming, and we are lost for words because our hearts are just celebrating with joy. The Zapalazza family, they're very quiet and they keep to themselves, but they talk to me and they tell me they want to make sure that I shared this with the community, that they're very grateful, and they just don't have any words to express, how.
thank you for all the love and support that's been sent our way. As my husband said, we're not really good with words, but no words could describe actually how we feel, the gratitude that we're feeling right now. We are overjoyed. We are still blessed. We are still blessed to have each one of you, the community, and of all the volunteers has been coming. Every weekend that we're doing the searches, they're not giving up on us, and we're not giving up on Maya. We will never stop. We're not gonna stop. Continue. We will bring Maya home with all your help. Thank you so much. Thank you for everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. And I want a special love to this family and also to our mods who help keep this victim classy, and in the chat there about her. We could not do this without good people like our moderators on this channel. I just think we have the greatest community to help, not only on this side, but also on that side where you folks, people on the ground. This community out here is moral support around the world. I mean, just let you know, we've got people from Canada, from South Africa, from Australia, from Brazil, from Europe. Everybody's watching to help you, and they're sending their love and their prayers to you. Okay, so just stay the course, be Akamai, okay, and you just keep moving in the right moment. Okay, God will open a window. Whenever He closes a door, he always opens that window, and that information will come down.
Amen.
Dillan, thank you so much for everything you do. Billy, you're a bulldog, brother. I love you. It's so great to know you and to to work alongside you. Coop, what can I say about you? You're an amazing human being. Known you for a couple of weekends anyway. So
I had hair. I had hair when I met you.
Yeah, you did have hair. And soon Billy's gonna lose his, and that way the three of you can look like three bowling balls. Yeah, exactly. And Richard and my brother Dean, what can I say? Boy, you were quiet tonight, but I know that where you are, and tomorrow when we start talking again, there's going to be a ton of information that comes flowing from that cranium. Okay. Justice for Maya. Okay. Justice for Maya. We love you guys. Keep the pressure on for that young lady. She needs to come home.
Yep.
That's the word for this evening. If you haven't subscribed, hit that subscription button. Dillan, take us out.
Hard working every day. I'm stressed out 24/7, babe. No timeouts. Wish we could fly away.